The Adriatic Sea. More than 1 million tons of cargo flow through this body of water each year, which is probably annoying for the fish that live there. All they want is to live a life of peace and quiet. But for thousands of years, the Adriatic has seen massive human activity, being vital to empire after empire, kingdom after kingdom, and now to the modern republics of southern Europe. Testament to this long history can be found on the 1,300 islands within it. Every island has its own story, and in this video we look at just one. It is a place known for strange and often unexplainable happenings. A place that for 1,000 years remained untouched by the outside world. And when the outside world did involve itself with the island, a terrible curse was said to have been unleashed. Just off the coast of Croatia is the island of Lokrum. Visit Lokrum and it might not seem like a place of darkness. Less than 2,000 feet from Dubrovnik, and known for its peacock population, she was even a filming location for Game of Thrones. But like everywhere else in the Balkans, it's a complete disaster below the surface. Historical records first mention Lokrum in the year 1023, when a monastery was founded there. According to local tradition, it was built after a large fire devastated much of Dubrovnik, in the hope its presence would please God and prevent another disaster. For hundreds of years, the monks kept their island isolated from the outside world, which is something monks like to do. They grew strange, exotic fruits, giving way to the name Lokrum, derived from the Latin word for sour fruit. But their bizarre, sour fruit paradise would not last forever. There are many versions of the legend, but somehow the monastery was shut down. After 800 years on the island, the monks were forced to leave. Heartbroken and vengeful, they performed one last ritual on Loughran, leaving a trail of strange symbols in candle wax, and from that day the island was cursed. The island was then sold by the government to private ownership. 3 officials were responsible for the sale, and all 3 of them died soon after. 2 of them took their own lives, and 1 was found dead in the waters near Lokrum. It was the first link in a long chain of tragedy connected to the island. The man they sold it to also died soon after, of some kind of unknown illness. Its next owner was a local military officer, who fell on hard times and had to sell Lokrum to avoid complete financial ruin. There are countless stories of successive owners losing either their lives, or at least their fortunes. It's hard to separate fact from fiction. The legends that surround Lokrum could fill several books. It said one owner didn't even make it to Lokrum. On the journey there, his ship was hit by a freak storm, killing all on board. Yet the most famous owner of Lokrum met the most tragic fate. He was the Austrian Archduke Maximilian. With his wife Charlotte, he built a grand mansion and introduced peacocks to the island, which is always a strange thing to do. Then in 1864, the French military installed him as the Emperor of Mexico, but his rule was short-lived. Few within Mexico supported this random Austrian bloke, who essentially just turned up one day calling himself Emperor. Inevitably, his regime collapsed, and after just 3 years in Mexico, he was captured and executed. Distraught by the loss of her peacock-loving husband, Charlotte suffered a mental breakdown and commits suicide soon after. To many, their fate could be explained simply as the result of bad choices, but the people of Dubrovnik knew different. To them, they were just 2 more victims of the curse of Lokrum. A lawyer in the service of Austria's empire then made Lokrum his home, and again, misfortune would soon fall upon him. He was exposed as a charlatan, having faked his identity as a lawyer, and used it to bluff his way into the emperor's service. In time, the island again fell into royal ownership, and it's said the curse led to the downfall of the entire royal dynasty. Heir to the Austrian crown, Prince Rudolf made a home there with his wife, but possession of this small island would tear them apart. Rudolf fell in love with the daughter of a local diplomat. There was nothing unusual about this, but in 1889, he and his new lover were found dead. In a remote hunting lodge, they had suddenly and mysteriously died. It was unclear exactly what happened, and soon everyone in Europe seemed to have their own theory. The most widely accepted of such is that they commit suicide together. Whatever the explanation, it was just one in a series of disasters for the Austrian monarchy. 9 years later, Rudolf's mother was herself murdered, assassinated by an anarchist called Luigi. How can you be killed by Luigi? That's just embarrassing. Over a decade later, his cousin Archduke Franz Ferdinand was also assassinated, triggering what would be known as World War I. Being on its losing side, their empire was cut to pieces, its monarchy abolished, and they were forced to flee their homeland. All this has been blamed on the curse of Lokrum, and that's not where the stories end. Walk to the shoreline near Dubrovnik, and you might be warned against visiting the island at night. That as if an underwater storm was surrounding it, any boat approaching might be swallowed by the waves. And if by chance you do manage to step foot on Lokrum at night, you'll be dead by sunrise. But on the bright side, they do have peacocks. Loughran is just one of countless islands said to be haunted, but for some reason I felt especially drawn to making a video about this one. Maybe it's all down to the name. Speaking of names, I've changed that of my second channel, and I'm starting to upload videos there again, so I recommend checking out that channel. It's called Wistman, and my new video is about Beretta. As for this video, I know it's shorter than usual, but only so much can be said about such a small island.